This video is to teach, expand, and simplifying polynomials with a focus on multiplying two binomials. So here is an example of two binomials where you're multiplying them. And what you are going to do is basically use the distributive law twice. Here is the answer, and I will go over with you how we get the answer. So you are going to take each term in the first bracket and multiply it by each term in the next bracket. So you're going to do x times x, which gives you the x squared. Then x times 2, which gives you a positive 2x. Negative 1 times the x, which gives you the negative x, or you could put a 1 in there as well, negative 1x. And negative 1 times 2, which gives you the negative 2. Then for the last step, you're going to simplify. So this is kind of the expand line, and then this would be the simplify line. And for simplifying, you're just going to look for any like terms, and you will notice that the 2x and the x are like terms. So 2, positive 2 minus 1 gives me plus 1x. So that's that middle term. And you could put a 1 in there. It's good form to not have the 1, but that is what's in there. So if you don't see a number in front of a letter or variable, then it is assumed to be 1. Now take a few minutes and pause this and try a few on your own, and then turn it on to see if you got the answers correct. And here are the answers for each of those. You can see for each one, I'll just go through a couple of them. You're going to do the distributive law with the first one, then the distributive law with the second term in each bracket. And sometimes people call this FOIL, and I'll just outline where they get this FOIL thing. So if you look at the blue lines, we do the first term times the first term in each bracket. So that's my F, and it stands for first. Then we do the first and the outside, but if you just think of it as one big equation here, basically we're doing the outside, we're multiplying the outside terms, so that's the O, the outside terms of each bracket. The I is the inside terms of each bracket. So I'll do that with a separate color. So this inside terms of the whole thing at once. And then the L for FOIL stands for the last term in each bracket. So we have first, outside, inside, last. So sometimes you will hear people refer to use the FOIL method or use FOIL. It's just an acronym to remember what order to multiply those in, and that will help you. But the real issue is just making sure that you use the distributive law for each individual variable or letter or term, and then that will give you your first line, and then your second line you're going to collect any like terms that you have to get it as simple as you possibly can. You know you're done this when you have no brackets and nothing left to multiply. It's all adding or subtracting of terms. So you do the same thing with the second one. You can see we do the first term of each, the outside terms, then we do the inside term, and then we do the last term for each one. So just depending on how you want to think of it, you can think of it as FOIL, or one more time, you can think of it as just doing the distributive law for the first term times each thing in the second term, then the distributive law for the second term times each term in the second bracket. And don't forget to collect like terms for your second step all the time. And then this last example, just to pay attention. The other examples I had all positive numbers, but just to pay attention to your positive and negative signs. So in the middle here, we have the negative 15x plus 7, which gives me my negative 8. So just watch your signs. Signs are probably the most common mistakes. Here are a couple of more complicated questions that have the two binomials within the question, but it also uses some of your other skills that you have using the distributive law and collecting like terms. So take a few minutes right now, give them a try, and then push pause right now, and then push play when you are ready, and you can see what the answers are. And here is the answer for number 1. I just rewrote the question, and then I used that FOIL, or the distributive law, for the two binomials. I did that first. I find that less mistakes are made if you do that first and leave that term at the front, in front of the bracket. Make sure when you do the answer using your distributive laws, so each of those, and writing it down, make sure that you keep that answer in a bracket right there. And that's kind of my first step. Then my next step could be collecting like terms. You could multiply the 2 times each of the terms, -2, times each of the terms in the bracket. But if we think of order of operations, we tend to do what's inside the brackets first if we possibly can. And we certainly can collect that to get that -59x in the middle. And then what you want to do is use your distributive law with the -2 in front times each of those terms inside the bracket, and you would get your final answer as listed below, and that would be your final answer. For your second question, I'm just going to move this up, and you can see this one's quite a bit longer. We have kind of I kind of visualize it as 2 separate questions. I have one that is right here, and then remember that anytime you have a minus sign there, you can always put a 1 in front of there. So then I kind of think of that as my second question right there. So I've split it into 2 pieces. I'm just going to move this a little bit so you can see all of the answer. There we go. And if you think of it as kind of 2 separate questions, you can see that I used the FOIL, or the first times the first one, first outside, and then inside, and then last, to get that answer. Make sure you leave it in a bracket. Then do the same thing here. Distributive law twice gets you that answer. Leave it in a bracket. Again, remember there's a 1 in there. You don't have to write it in, but it's something that you should be remembering. If it helps to write it in to make sure that you do the answers correctly, then please do that. And then you're going to collect the like terms with inside the brackets. So you can see that the 3x, the -3x, and the +7 give me the +4. The -4 and the +6 give me the +2. And now my brackets are, as the things inside my brackets are as simple as possible. So now I'm going to use the distributive law with the numbers in front of each bracket. So 2 times each of those, and then -1 times each of those. And we would get this line. And then, of course, we can then collect like terms. So our x squareds are like terms, our x's are like terms, and our numbers are like terms. And we would end up with our final answer right there. And watch your positive and negative signs. That's the most common mistakes. So practice makes perfect with these. The more that you do, the better that you feel about how to expand and simplify polynomials.